Welcome, I'm Michael Bickert. Thanks for joining me today as we explore concepts with the objective of improving your management skills and growing your business. Grab a notepad, grab a pen, because I want you to take notes and I want you to make a commitment to yourself that you will jot down some sort of action item, something that you can implement in your business today. That's what this is all about. Implementation to drive your business forward. Now, come on, make the commitment. Don't just say, yeah, he always says that. Why not put something in place, change something today to drive innovation? Implement one little thing that will improve your business. If I don't get you to do that, I haven't done my job. And you know what else I want you to make a commitment to doing? I want you to stop going against the forces of nature. Stop going against the natural order of things. What the heck am I talking about? I wonder if you have a top-down or bottom-up management style. Mostly what I observe when I look at businesses is that the owners and the managers, they really implement a top-down management style, which is to say they come up at the top, those few people at the top, the business owner, those people who have the greatest stake in the business and feel like they have the most to lose. They come up with the policies, they do the problem solving, and they mandate to the rest of the team, whether it's a small team or a big team, it trickles down this idea that here's how we need to do things. Now, to the extent that you have specialized knowledge and a lot of experience and expertise in your business, there's nothing wrong with sharing that. In fact, that is an imperative. You need to share that specialized knowledge. Imagine if you were some sort of healthcare practitioner and you went through all those years of schooling, those multiple degrees to be able to treat your patients, and then you said, well, I'll just leave it up to my receptionist to decide how we're going to treat patients. Of course, that's not what I'm referring to here. You should be spending your time making sure that what you do best, the implementation of that specialized knowledge is, leveraged and is maximized optimally. So also, if you have many years of experience, maybe there's not a specialized knowledge, maybe your business in some sense is a bit of a commodity that you sell and there's lots of competition, but because of your many years of experience, I guess that's another type of specialized knowledge, you know which methodologies, the logistical processes work best, and you want to dictate that to your people. So think about this, and when you have turnover in staff, are you telling them this is how we do it? You bring someone new onto the team and you tell them this is how we do it. That is what I mean by top-down management style. And why I asked you at the beginning of the video to make a commitment that you will stop going against the natural order of things and, to participate, or rather to go with the flow of the natural forces, is because that is not how things work in the real world. So I just want to take you away from the business concept for a moment. Let's talk in metaphors. Let's use an analogy. Let's say that you were wanting to set up some sort of mechanism. I should give a good example. Maybe you're building a house. Well, in the Bible, it talks about the foolish man who builds his house on sand, and the wise man would build it on stone, because the natural order of things is that when the rains come, the sand will wash away and the house will fall, and great will be its fall. You want to observe the way things happen naturally in nature. You can intuitively understand that. You would not want to, even if you're just going to, light a fire because you're camping, where you're going to set your lawn chair up, you're going to sort of observe which way is the wind blowing. And I know there's that thing where it doesn't matter where you put the lawn chair, the wind will change directions and the smoke will come to your face. But you got to understand what I'm saying here is we intuitively observe nature, the natural forces of nature, the natural way things occur around us, and then we make our decision on how to do things because we don't want to be fighting against things. So if you were, I don't know, you can't fight water. Water, as an example, will always find a way. It flows through the path of least resistance, and there's all these properties to water that people have, in science observed many years ago. That one really strange property of water is that it expands when it freezes, as opposed to most things would contract as they get colder. And of course, water does contract as it gets colder until freezing, and then it expands. So that's a weird thing. But noticing these things and observing things have helped us as a society be able to create technologies, mechanisms, and systems that work because they go with the order of the natural order of things. They go with the flow of physics and the way the world works. Well, I'm telling you, your people will always act in their own best interest, their own self-interest. And when we do a top-down management style, often what we're doing is we're communicating to them, this is in my best interest. This is how I want things done for my business. And since you work for me, you should do what I want. I'll add a caveat here. This is a really important point. What you should do, of course, is share your objective. What you should do with your people, management serves a role in communicating the vision, so you need to communicate your objectives to your people. Say, this is what we're trying to accomplish. And then of course you have to align your objectives with your people, make it so that they want the same things that you want, so that they are remunerated in such a way that supports them doing what you want them to do, and that they are recognized and their performance is evaluated on the accomplishment of the objectives you want. But after that, you then want to leave it in their court. You want to give them the freedom and autonomy to decide how to do things. You don't want to give them carte blanche autonomy on everything and just say, here, go to it, and what I want to do is I want to make money. That's not what I'm saying here. When I refer to somebody as exercising a top-down management style, typically they are micromanaging and they're doing way too much dictating and mandating of how things should be done. And the problem with that is because you're not doing the work and you're not there doing the exact things that you're hiring these people to do on your team. And therefore, you don't have the same level of expertise and insight that they have. Doing that work day in and day out, they will see the best way to do something. And the extent to which they are doing something that doesn't make sense because they're following your mandate, they're in compliance with your policy, can be a real problem for you if it isn't the best way, if it's wasteful in any way. When these people experience that waste and frustration associated with doing something that doesn't really make sense, what they will do is they will typically cut corners. And of course, you might have some compliant personalities that just follow exactly your rules, but they'll be frustrated and they won't necessarily want to work there. They won't have the same enjoyment of a work experience. But if you give them that freedom, then that nature, the natural order of things for people to act in their own self-interest will cause them to look for easier ways to do things. And you want that. There's nothing wrong with something being easy. You don't want your work that your people do to be difficult for the sake of working hard. We all want our people to put in maximum effort, but we'd like to say it's better to work smart than work hard. Work smarter, not harder. So give your people the freedom to work smart. Give them the autonomy to change things and come to the group, come in your meetings that you set up. And we used to call them Kaizen meetings, where, improvement meetings where you would collaborate and talk to one another about a better way that you found. Hey, why don't we do this? Why don't we change the way that the floor plan is set up in terms of our operation, in terms of our production line? Why aren't we packaging in this way? Have we considered a different vendor for this, that, or the other? Let your people talk. They will give you ideas that you haven't thought of that will streamline your operation. It will add to value. The innovation is critical, and that's where bottom-up management is your preferred style. It's going with natural forces. People are going to act in their own self-interest anyway, so might as well sort of sit back a little bit and observe. You're still a manager, you're still the boss, it's not a democracy, you still get to give them feedback. But what you have done, or what you should be doing ideally, is you put a report card in place that measures the accomplishment of the objectives that you've laid out. So that's the parameters you give them, those are the boundaries you give them, is that we're trying to fulfill the following task. We're trying to accomplish the following objectives. And you define that for them, and you measure, and you see if they're doing it. And then you allow them to come up with better ways. They're going, think of it as a game that you might have as a leader of some, I don't know, some social organization for kids in school, or scouts, or Girl Guides, or these types of things where they play games, or just on the playground, people are playing games. They come up with these rules, and they say the objective. Here's what we're trying to accomplish. And people always find a way. They act in their own self-interest trying to win the game. When you align your objectives and when you measure your people's performance adequately, and it's in alignment with your objectives, they're gonna try to find a way to win. And that's what you want. That's the natural order. They're not trying to win for you, they're trying to win for their own sake. And their winning is your winning. That's the key. That's the takeaway. You need to understand that you want what they want what you want. Everyone wins. This will take a little bit of practice. And if you've been a top-down management style for a long time and you've been dictating things, it's gonna take a lot of practice to try to break bad habits where you're solving everyone's problems. You might think to yourself, as I often did, what's wrong with solving a problem? I'm a good problem solver. The organization benefits from my ability to solve problems. What's wrong with it is that it takes away from your people's resourcefulness. They may have solved the problem in a completely different way that makes more sense. And there's no competition there. It's like, we just want the problem solved. However you do it is fine. Let your people do it, and then encourage them to be more resourceful. And then that you will build this culture where they will start to understand that they don't take every problem to the boss. And you can't afford the time to constantly be solving everyone else's problems. That's why it's so valuable to have people, to acquire talent that is resourceful, that they go out of their way to problem solve on their own, and they only bring the most difficult ones to the group so that you can decentralize your creativity, your problem solving ability. You can add your cumulative brain power and problem solving ability to these sort of situations, as opposed to any one individual. I'm the smartest guy in the room, here's how we should do it. Bottom-up management. So if you need a little bit of practice, then commit today. Make that commitment. Say, today I'm going to go and I'm going to empower someone. Identify that person in your organization who you may have been guilty of mandating too much, and think to yourself, I wonder what they could be doing that I'm not allowing them to do. Remember, according to Toyota's 8th form of Muda, the untapped potential of your people in terms of ideas and creativity is very wasteful, and you want to avoid that. So ask yourself today, as your exercise today, who am I not allowing the freedom to create and to contribute in a way to the organization that I may not have thought of? It's sort of an opportunity for you to think outside the box, because it's not your thinking. You're the box. Let somebody outside of you do some thinking. Go to that person today and say, you know what? I made a commitment. Have them watch this video, forward it to them, and say, you're the person I've chosen. I want you and your people, if they're in management, perhaps they have people, I want us to have a more of a culture of more freedom, where we do a little bit more bottom up management, where we allow you the freedom to put to use those things that you know, because you do this particular task day in and day out. And what sort of innovation, what should we do? Now, don't make this a one-off situation. As I alluded to earlier, you need to have meetings, you need to have some sort of schedule where you come back, and once again you guys get back together and you communicate and you measure the results. What happened with our ideas? We implemented the following ideas. and then create mechanisms through which people can submit ideas for discussion so that you're not just coming in cold and staring at one another and saying, okay, anybody have any good ideas? And the pressure's on. When these things strike people, there should be some sort of mechanism, and I would recommend some sort of digital application that a person could type in an idea that they can elaborate on later on when you're in a meeting together, and then you can discuss it. You can determine what sort of resources need to be dedicated toward this, and then you can approve those resources as the manager, and you can remove obstacles, empower them, and have them try to implement the idea. Like I said, it might be a type of packaging, it might be different type of equipment, software, it may be organization, it might be any kind of thing that people come up with that they are saying, this is going to make my life easier. I think I can be more efficient. I think I can streamline the particular task that you want me to do, and we can accomplish the objective. We'll still accomplish the objective, and I'll be able to do it better. So you empower them. You say, okay, well, you have your budget, you have the resources you need, go ahead and do that, and then you reconvene later and ascertain whether or not you've experienced the improvement that were anticipated. And then you refine from there. Perpetual refinement, that's what you want to accomplish. When you give consideration to the alternative, that's where I think I can do the best job in convincing you that you're doing it wrong. If you are utilizing a bottom-down management style, consider what that alternative is costing you. It's costing you time. You're not getting the most out of your people, so you're wasting things. You are not innovating and adding value to your products or service as much as you might otherwise be able to do. And most importantly, as I started the video by saying, is you're going against the natural order of things. You believe that somehow you can build your house on sand and you can make it work. It's like they say, you can't push a rope, and water doesn't flow uphill. When you do a top-down management style, you're essentially trying to push rope. You're trying to get people to do what you want them to do. And if you're like, no, I've done this and it works, the degree to which it will work is when it happens to, maybe coincidentally, fall within the parameters of what they want to do. And it's the unseen that you're missing here. All the innovation, all of the creativity, all of the problems that it's creating that you don't see. I kind of conflated those two things, the positives and the negatives of doing this. What I meant to say is you are missing out. You don't see all the creativity you would have had, and also you don't see all the negativity that you currently do have. Those are the things that you're missing out on. And so go with the natural order of things. Go with how things work, and that is an understanding that people will always act in their own self-interest. Always. You have to accept that. And when you accept that, then you go, okay, since that's the physics of the situation, that's the humanities that we've got to deal with, how do I leverage that to my benefit? The same way you want the wind or the slope of the hill. If you were building something mechanical and you were engineering this, or you were an architect, you would try to work with the landscape. You would try to work with the natural order of things. That's what you need to do in your management style. Observe, sit back and observe. That's where your Genshi Genbutsu, go and see and talk to your people, communicate. All of this is very important. And of course, as I always say, you have to measure. You have to continue to communicate and perpetually refine. We can talk about this in a variety of ways. And I really wanted today for you to think about what are you going to do today. And I think the best suggestion I gave you was to find one person that you can give a little bit more empowerment to, and then tell them, we're going to come back. We're going to measure in a month. Maybe it's something that somebody complained to you about or whatever, and you procrastinated, you didn't get back to them, they sent you an email, or they said, hey, I want to talk to you about, I have a better idea. Think of something like that you can go to someone and say, hey, I really apologize, I never got back to you on that matter. You mentioned that you had an idea and you'd like to implement it. Let's talk about that today. Implement that, and then give it a particular deadline, say, a week or a month or however long would fit for the scope of the work that's involved. Give them the resources, empower them, measure, figure out what your current state is, have an agreement with the person what your desired state is, what your objective you're trying to accomplish is, and then measure to see if you were doing that. start small and then, build on this and let this expand throughout your organization. And for the most part, what we're trying to do is work on you. If you can convince yourself and you can become a more effective manager by implementing this kind of thing, it will spread and people will notice that in your management style. And if you have layers of management, that will spread down to, all the way to the front lines throughout your organization. So I think that's where I want to leave it today. I hope you got something out of this. I want to remind you that what we're doing now in the description is we put a link to a form, an online form that you can fill out completely anonymously, and you can give me a question or concern or a suggestion, something that you would like me to cover in one of these videos, and I will customize it for you without giving away your name or your business, or, if you want me to, I will. You can put that in the comments and in the notes in that form. But anything proprietary you share with me, I will keep that to myself and I'll try to address the specific question that you have. So fill out that form and we'll reach out to you if we require more information. It's really sort of me doing what I'm suggesting here, only outside of my organization. I'm giving a mechanism for feedback so that I can implement improvement in my business, or at least in these videos. And of course, if you didn't want to fill out that form, but you do have something, you want to push back, you want to agree with this, you want to let me know how it went, or you want to ask more questions, you can always leave that in the comments. And when you leave something in the comments, we all learn, and we need to learn from one another. Perpetual refinement.